o'clock every day, which will increase costs as well. So I lay that out to you because there's a lot that we don't know, and to let you know that we're going to spend the next 3 months trying to figure it out, along with every other district in Ohio. So we'll keep you posted as we do that, and we may have to come back to you for permission and advice and resolutions moving forward as well. I will say this, there are some districts that are considering adapting their adjusting their calendars yet again to start later in the school year, to wait till after Labor Day to give more time to figure it out, see what's going to happen. But then there are other districts who are saying, no, we want to start earlier because if there's a spike in cases in the winter months, we can take a longer break and it won't be as impactful. We've heard that from some colleges, that they're actually thinking of starting earlier rather than later, anticipating that possible rough winter time.
This is just going to be a nightmare for parents too.
Oh, horrible.
I mean, the child care,
Yeah.
small, I mean, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I just wanted you to know that the first week in June, I intend to put a survey out to the district parents just for the opportunity to get a sense from them what they're thinking. You know,
That's a good idea.
We're certain that there are some parents in the district that it doesn't matter what conditions are, they're not going to send their kids back to school, potentially. We need to be prepared for that. We do have an online option for kids if they choose to go that route, with their parents choose that. But to get a sense of the numbers and to plan, we're going to do a survey the first week in June using our website. We'll send notifications to folks to go on there and fill that out. A couple of districts locally have done that. I'm not going to name the districts, but I will tell you that in multiple districts nearby, over about 40% of the parents said they would not send their kids back to school until there's a vaccine.
Can we
Back
wait
to
till,
school or back to the school building?
Back to the school building.
could we wait a little later to send that out, you think, or not?
Well, the longer I wait, the less time we have to plan.
True.
So we could.
I just
Still
thought-
need to get people's attitudes, but you must also
We could do
include in that
multiple surveys.
Yeah.
too.
is if we get an antivirus shot,
Right.
that would change the whole thing, I would think, because they're talking everybody's gonna get one.
It'll be interesting to see how many people actually get it. I mean, we have people now that don't get a flu shot.
There's something that's thrown in front of me now that they had a survey, I don't know whether it was NAM or Ohio or the governor or whoever, but they, right now, 72% of the population said they would get that, which is pretty high.
Yep.
And I think really, probably even higher than that would occur once they're out.
So I just wanted to share with you what we were thinking about, what we're doing. I'll keep you posted. It's still really early, obviously, in that process, but these are discussions that are going on statewide. That's all I have.
Okay, do you still have the, that Akron area superintendents are still meeting and everything?
We
too?
will have a call tomorrow, actually.
Okay.
Well, what are you gonna do about Six District Compact? I mean, what are we gonna do about vocational or career path stuff?
What are we gonna do about it? What does that
Well, are
mean?
we doing that, but there's some of that has got physical activity in it, you know?
Yeah, I know.
mean, what did we do this spring with their career path?
Everything was online this past time, this past grading
So
period.
what did they do? Suspend?
Simulations,
Oh, they use simulate, okay.
sure. And then, of course, that's not as good, obviously,
No,
as
it's
face-to-face.
Okay, anything else? You all set?
Yep.
Okay.
But we're already in the realm of 100% learning, so we just have to back up from that. Right? I mean, we've got this working 100% remote learning,
Correct.
so we just have to back off from that. How you're gonna suspend some of it and do it in person?
Well, we can go back to doing 100% remote, or we can go back to hybrid, we can,
Yeah, I know that, but what I'm getting at is we've practiced that already, so,
yeah, we know how to do that,
yeah.
yeah.
All right, thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Morehouse, you're up. Treasurer's report, please.
Okay, for the month of April, we received our final settlement from the county, so that will be the last positive cash flow month we have until come July. I informed you last month also that BWC would be sending out rebates this year versus next year. We did receive that. That was about $68,000. A couple other nice things is our insurance consortium. I had built in 10% increase for our insurance premiums, and between medical and dental, we're taking a 4.6% increase. And you'll see how that's kind of helped in the
Sure.
forecast coming up. So I was very pleased about that. In fact, dental is actually a 0% increase. When we switched, we took a 2-year rate guarantee by going to them. So we knew that was coming in at 0, but I still projected 10% overall, so it came in at 4.6. And then due to the underlying conditions of the economics and everything, our dental carrier is actually giving us a premium holiday for the month of June. So that's going to save us about $17,000. And I'm going to be notifying staff of that this week, so they'll all get that in email letting them know about that. They'll have a couple dollars saved in their checks. Biggest thing, obviously, that happened in the month of May now is, the governor, how he's decided to reduce K-12 education by $300 million. And the average was 3.72% of education funding. However, our 3.72% was really 26.25% of our per pupil funding. Basically, the districts that get the least amount got hit the hardest percentage-wise. Well, we weren't the only ones that got hit, so we are thankful because non-public schools, they are getting hit, but I think it's average about 1.5% for them, because what they're doing with them is your non-publics get two kinds of funding. They get auxiliary services that flows through us, and then they also get administrative cost reimbursement. Well, the administrative funding that comes through to them that flows through us, payments come 3 times a year: August, November, and February. Well, since we've already received all that money, ODE feels that there's nothing they can take out, so they aren't losing any of that funding. They are losing a little bit of their administrative cost reimbursement. The bigger one was community schools, because no one had heard whether community schools were going to get any reductions like K through 12 schools were going to get, and they finally released that they are getting a reduction. Keep in mind that funding for community schools goes through your public schools, so that goes through us. They are being reduced by 1.5% instead of the average of 3.72 across the 3.72 across the state, or in our case, 26%. So we are losing $442,000, and we get to save $3,500. So I thought it was a fair trade-off.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So the only other thing, just let the board know, is we met earlier about our bond refinancing, and our committee met on Friday to talk to Moody's about our potential bond rating and what we're going to be, and hopefully within this next week we should get something back from them. Mr. President, that's all I have for you.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? No. I'll refrain from comments then. Recommends anyone wish to make a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hanson?
Aye.
Mrs. Heffernan?
Aye.
Mrs. Flasco?
Aye.
Mr. Leidick? Aye. Mr. McHugh?
Aye. Okay, thank you, Tom. Next up, Board of Education reports. Committees, anything?
Policy committee.
Oh, yeah.
Policy committee met last week via the phone and in person, some of us, and reviewed a whole slew of Neola recommendations, which are on tonight's agenda.
Okay. All right, very well. Anything else? Okay. Takes us to consent resolution.
I'll move.
Okay. I'll say. All right, we got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Flasco?
Aye.
Mr. Leidick? Aye. Mrs. Hanson?
Aye.
Mrs. Heffernan?
Aye.
Mr. McHugh?
Aye. All right. Personnel, certificated staff. We have 6 items. I will so move.
A second.
Motion and a second. Comments?
Yep. Couple of things just real quick. Kara Zimmer is a Title I small group instructor at the elementary school who had been on maternity leave, has elected to be a stay-at-home mom. So she has resigned. And then I also wanted to call your attention to item 6. Item 6 is a leave of absence. It's unusual because this employee has chosen to take both years at the same time. Normally, they take a year, decide what they want to do, and then they're allowed to take up to 2. So she's decided to take them both. She is an intervention specialist at the elementary school. So with your approval tonight, we will post that internally tomorrow. I do anticipate an internal transfer of an employee from another building that wants to go to the elementary school. Once the dust settles there, we'll post externally for an intervention specialist, mild to moderate, and that new
She
position, no. That new position then would be at the other building where that employee is transferring from.
Okay.
Both of these folks are great people. I'm sorry to see them both go. They're
Yeah. Right.
outstanding folks.
Wasn't Maureen Ferris an outstanding rookie?
Yeah, that's right. She was one of our honorees at the county-wide banquet a couple of years ago.
Oh, very good. Okay, anything else or questions or comments? Roll call.
Mr. McHugh?
Aye.
Mrs. Heffernan?
Aye.
Mrs. Flasco?
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson?
Aye.
Mr. Leidig?
Okay, taking us up to classified staff, there are 5 items there. I'll take a motion.
I'll move.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Questions, comments?
I'd like to call your attention to item 1. Renee Patterson was a longtime paraprofessional in the district and instructional aide, outstanding individual, great lady.
Yes.
Spent her days helping some of our most severely handicapped students and working with them. Her husband's job has caused them to be relocated out of state, and so she has had to resign in order to move with her family. We're going to miss her. I'm really sorry to see her go.
Sure. Okay. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Heffernan?
Aye.
Mrs. Flasco?
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson?
Aye.
Mr. Leidig? Mr. McHugh?
Aye. Okay, next up is student workers. This would be the TWE group. I will so move.
I'll second.
I can't believe Karen's in, what grade is she?
10.
Oh.
Nice. Any other comment, question?
I would just point out how vital these people are to Mr. Unangst and his department, the incredible job he does in training them and working with them. We've had kids leave that program and go off in their careers, Mr. McHugh's daughter being one, to work in the tech field as a result of the training they got here. So not just his daughter, but several others as well. So,
Along the way.
oh yeah, for years and years.
Mr. Lacy.
There are not many districts left that do this program. We're one of the few. And it's really a model to other districts that are looking for similar programs. So kudos to the board for putting it in place years and years ago, and for Eric to keep it going. And it really has paid off with lightening his load a little bit in his department going forward.
What do they get paid?
They are paid the student rate, which is minimum wage, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Comment, question, roll call.
Mr. McHugh?
Aye.
Mrs. Heffernan?
Aye.
Mrs. Flasco?
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson?
Aye.
Mr. Leidig?
Okay. Taking us up to part 9, recommendations. First up, student accident and football insurance.
I move.
I'll second that.
We
Anything?
offer this every year, and I can tell you that I do not know of a family that takes advantage of it now. There could be. We simply offer it, and if they want it, they contact the company and move forward with it.
Okay. Roll call.
Mrs. Hanson?
Aye.
Mr. McHugh?
Aye.
Mrs. Flasco?
I will abstain, given Guaranteed Trust Life is in my portfolio of insurance companies.
Mrs. Heffernan?
Aye.
Mr. Leidig?
Okay. B, 2020-2021 school day starting and ending times, we hope.
As of today.
As of this motion.
I move.
Motion and a second. Any comment?
I'm not gonna say a word. Let's not
Fair
jinx
enough.
it.
Pray,
Let's
We-
not-
but
just
if
pray.
If we're 100% online, do we have a starting time that their teachers are available to their kids?
We are talking about, we did not this last grading period,
Oh.
but we are talking about doing that in the fall if we're online, in an effort to help families better plan by having it locked in.
Get these kids up in the morning.
Yeah.
That would be helpful, I think,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and also helpful to the teachers where they don't have to be available
Well,
different hours.
the challenge that we had, particularly at the secondary level, was, here, Dave Weaver's class is a certain period. And if kids are trying to get help other times of the day, it just created, well, that's when he's teaching a different class, or, the way the schedule works. So by having the kids follow their schedule, it'll make the teachers even more available to them, because they'll have to see them for 40 minutes,
Yeah.
50
Mhm.
minutes a day. So, yeah, we're planning on doing that. We're also talking about, depending on the model, if we're blended, the teachers, as they do their online instruction, will do it from in our buildings, not from home. We're gonna work in the district as much as we can, for a bunch of reasons.
Oh, yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hanson?
Aye.
Mr. Leidig?
Aye.
Mrs. Flasco?
Aye.
Mrs. Heffernan,
Aye.
Mr. McHugh?
Aye. Student handbooks, 2020-2021. I'll second.
You got copies of these in a packet a week or two ago. They had yellow highlight for the changes, very, very minimal
But not very
changes.
much.
Mm-mm.
We've gotten to the point where it's kind of a well-oiled machine now, and you update dates and phone numbers and things like that. But these are important documents for the board to approve. That goes a long way when we enforce the rules and things that are in them.
Okay.
By the way, too, just FYI, we send a couple of assistant principals every year to the school handbook conference in Columbus, where they have lawyers that go through and show them what needs to be in there. RJ Bronscheitel and Al DiTomaso were there this spring, or
Oh, good.
actually before all this happened. I think it was in January or something like that, getting ready.
Well, but that's a pretty hot ticket, huh?
It's a hot ticket, yeah. Who draws the short straw to go to that
The
one?
school handbook conference.
Actually, that's something those guys enjoy doing. They're
Okay, all
part
right.
of that.
All right, anything else? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Flasco?
Aye.
Mr. McHugh?
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson?
Aye.
Mrs. Heffernan,
Aye.
Mr. Leidig?
All right. Takes me up to my favorite part of every May meeting, graduating seniors 2019-2020. I will move.
I'll second.
I have to make a comment on this.
I thought
This
you
is the
might.
first time in my career that the graduating seniors are being board approved before the actual graduating ceremony is shown. Is shown.
Well, it's shown.
We already-
Yeah, it's normally after the fact, and we wait so that we know who all,
Exactly.
is
We should have
graduating.
brought our clackers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am extremely proud to tell you that this year, every single child, young adult, graduated. We had
Wonderful.
no one that did not meet the standards that have been set forth for graduation.
It's awesome.
That is something to be very proud of.
Testament, even with the last quarter, how all that.
I knew you were gonna ask me that. It's 170 something. I don't remember the actual number. I'll count them in the
That's
next,
great.
during the 5-year forecast, I'll count them.
Yeah. Oh, that's
That's a low blow.
I owed him
edge of your
one.
seat presentation. There we
I
go.
owed him one.
Okay, anything else on the graduating seniors? Roll call.
Mr. McHugh?
All right, aye.
Mrs. Heffernan,
Aye.
Mrs. Flasco?
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson,
Aye.
Mr. Leidig?
Okay, takes us next to Wings of Change Therapy Incorporated Occupational Therapy Agreement 2020-2021 school year.
I move.
Motion and second. Anything on that?
Jordy Joyce and her company have long been affiliated with our school district. They do an incredible job. We have, just for the sake of being fiscally prudent, gone out and shopped around a little bit on these contracts, and you just can't get the services that her company provides for similar price or less. And so I'm happy to have Jordy's company back with us again for next year with your approval tonight.
So has she been working with kids as we go with this 100%
Oh,
online?
her and our PT and all those folks, the related service providers, have been doing what they call teletherapy. Blows me away. I was talking to Suzanne McDonough, our PT, on
Yeah.
Thursday, I think it was, and she was describing how she had to kind of learn a whole new shtick because, you know, she's been in the business a long time and she'd never had to do that before. But yes, they have been doing everything virtually, showing the kids how to make the various movements and whatnot. And it's been highly successful, and I have to tell you, our parent population has been very pleased with it as well. I think moving forward, we're gonna see a lot of our special ed services kind of, you know, both ways. Some online, some face-to-face, depending on the needs of the child, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Just so you know, if I can add too, that this contract falls under our federal procurement, and Mrs. Oss goes out, as Wally says, seeks different quotes and so forth, and so she falls in line with what we have to do by federal law to be able to continue this contract.
Very good. Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Hanson?
Aye.
Mr. Leidig? Mrs. Flasco?
Aye.
Mrs. Heffernan?
Aye.
Mr. McHugh?
Aye. Takes us up to item F, the summer school program.
I'll move. Second.
Motion and second.
Both the extended school year program for our special needs kids and our reading intervention program will be virtual this summer. We're going to use a program for the reading intervention. It's called Freckle, believe it or not, like freckles.
Mm-hmm.
A very highly rated and successful program to help kids with reading skills. And obviously the extended school year program for our special needs kids is created based on the needs of the kids in the program. So that varies depending on the handicapping condition that child has.
Okay.
Got a lot of individuals.
Very much.
All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Flasco?
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson?
Aye.
Mrs. Heffernan?
Aye.
Mr. Leidig? Mr. McHugh?
Aye. All right, item G, the Positive Education Program or PEP agreement. I will so move.
I'll second.
Motion and second.
We have for many years now been utilizing behavioral intervention services from PEP. Appropriate name for that service. This is an organization that comes in and models effective teaching strategies for students with behavioral needs so that our teachers can learn from them as they're modeling it and then turn around and teach it that way themselves. So it's kind of a slash between professional development and consultation services by this firm. During the last grading period, when we were all online, PEP actually had a series of workshops for parents as well as our teachers. So the kids are at home, mom and dad are now dealing with them educationally at home, perhaps for the first time in many years. So those behavioral, that's a hard one to say, consultants gave parents tips as well as the teachers. So it was really cool to log in and see that happening. And we had great feedback from those that did. It was good stuff.
Good. Roll call, please.
Mr. McHugh?
Aye.
Mrs. Heffernan?
Aye.
Mrs. Flasco?
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson?
Aye.
Mr. Leidig?
Okay, item H, koinonia. Oh boy, I believe it's koinonia.
I can't say it
Close
either. So.
enough.
Close enough. Koinea Enterprises LLC amendment to the contract. I will move that.
I'll second.
Okay. Anyone?
All right, so this organization works with some of our most severely handicapped students, and they do job training and things like that out in the community at businesses and whatnot. And there are a few examples of kids that are not finished yet and the need to extend that service for a few more days. As you can see, what is it, 5 days or something?
15.
15 days rather, will allow us to finish that up.
There is no increase in price. The amount of the contract is still the same. They just needed to extend the time to be able to do it.
All the time to get it, okay.
So no cost, no additional cost, let me say.
Okay, fair enough. Question, roll call.
Mr. McHugh?
Aye.
Mr. Leidig? Mrs. Flasco?
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson?
I,
Mrs. Heffernan?
Aye.
Okay, item I, the ESC agreement on behalf of the Summit Christian School, 2020-21 school year.
is this the school that's in the old elementary school?
Hang on just a second.
We need a motion.
Take a motion.
I'm,
Okay, second. All right. Question.
Yes, this is the school that now is in the old primary school on Northampton Road. We are their fiscal agent for their auxiliary service funds. So any of these contracts typically have to flow through you guys, and Tom administers them.
Ah, that's right. That's right. Okay, anything else? Roll call.
Mrs. Hanson?
I,
Mr. McHugh?
Aye.
Mrs. Flasco?
Aye.
Mrs. Heffernan?
Aye.
Mr. Leidig?
Okay, item J, policy revisions. Okay,
I'll second.
motion and second. Question.
Not a whole lot to share. Most of these were not policies where we had choices so much as legal language changes. The addition of a word here, the deletion of a word there, and then, of course, the policy that I presented to you guys about vacation
Yeah,
leave.
that's what I was gonna say.
I mentioned that to those employees who are affected by it, and they were very appreciative of us considering that.
But this has a limit of 2 school years.
That's right.
Right.
And then if all the language will come out?
Well, we'll revert back to the original policy, which
Okay.
exempts
That's what I thought.
2 of us, and the rest are all at the 20-day limit.
Yeah.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Leidig? Mrs. Hanson?
I,
Mrs. Flasco?
Aye.
Mrs. Heffernan?
Aye.
Mr. McHugh?
Aye. Okay, item K for KidsLink School District Contract, COVID-19, 2019-2020. I'll move that. Motion is second.
This is an agreement for a specific student.
oh,
And Tom, the name of the student is in this, so we're gonna wanna redact that. For ESY purposes.
Okay,
is this a handicap,
Yes,
and is this located somewhere?
yes.
I didn't have a chance to read.
It's in Streetsboro, and it starts later this month. Their contract says September, but it doesn't start till later this month. That's just their school year.
Dear God.
okay.
Dean is in there.
Do the roll call? Do we want to,
Yeah.
okay, roll call, please.
Mr. McHugh?
Aye.
Mrs. Flasco?
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson?
I,
Mrs. Heffernan?
Aye.
Mr. Leidig?
Okay. Now, does the next one fall right under that, the KidsLink School
Yes.
District Contract?
Yep.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
Okay. Question, roll call.
Mr. McHugh?
Aye.
Mrs. Heffernan?
Aye.
Mrs. Flasco?
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson?
I,
Mr. Leidig?
Okay. That ends the recommendations. We move to finance for subject purchase orders.
I'll move.
All right, we have 2 this month. The first one is Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services. As I informed you, normally we pay a couple $100s a month for unemployment. However, we had a $6,000 bill for the month of April, just because of the virtual learning, and we weren't able to utilize some personnel as we have in the past because of that. So
but we don't pay into that quarterly, do we?
No.
Like-
Unemployment gets paid, basically it's dollar for dollar. Every dollar the employee gets paid, we pay our portion of it.
Okay.
We don't pay a flat rate, we don't pay it quarterly, we pay as they get paid. But we may not be necessarily paying 100% of it. They look at the previous 5 quarters where they were employed, and the oldest 4 whoever they were employed by, they're the ones responsible for the unemployment. So we could be 100%, we may not be. The other thing is, part of the CARES Act, there is going to be, supposed to be 50% offset of the cost. We will not get the money directly, it will carry credits with ODJFS for that. So that hasn't hit yet, but we were short on the purchase order. And then the one for Summit County ESC, that is for Faith Islamic Academy using the auxiliary funds. We have a contract with the ESC that the board approved last summer for them, but they never did a requisition was never done to be able to pay Summit ESC. So this is the cost for the contract, and we need to have I need to have the board's approval to be able to pay that.
Does this represent one person or?
No, there's 5. 5 part-time.
Okay, any other questions?
Or 3, I'm sorry, not 5, there's 3 people.
3
I'm
is it?
sorry, yes, I believe it's
Okay.
3.
Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Flasco?
Aye.
Mr. Leidig? Mrs. Hanson?
Aye.
Mrs. Heffernan?
Aye.
Mr. McHugh?
Aye. Okay, next action is recommend the board appro- Would you like?
Are we going to have a presentation?
Yes.
Let's vote on it after.
Recommend the board, I make the motion, we have second?
I'll second.
Okay. Mr. Morehouse, you're on.
All right.
You really want it.
Okay.
You were that close,
So-
mister.
I'm leaving. I don't want to block anyone's view.
You're gonna go look up the numbers, I know. All right, so every year, in springtime and in November, we go through our 5-year forecast presentation. Traditionally, what you're supposed to do is in November, you create it and update it in May. However, I gotta tell you, this May was like starting all over again, just because really nobody knows what's going on. We've had so many things going out throughout the state with treasurers trying to verify, using consultants, different thing. So throughout this whole thing, please keep in mind the one key word is assumption. Because right now, we truly don't know on some things, so a lot of it is all based on assumptions. So as I traditionally do, I'm gonna go through our different revenues and expenditures. The biggest thing I'm gonna talk to you about is the updates and assumptions, what's changed since November, okay? And a couple of just reminding things that we did for this year. All right, so our property tax, which obviously is the biggest thing that we get that we're funded on, normal delinquencies that we have are 2.25%. I'm allowing for an additional 5% for coming this year, especially with some of the businesses out there that are temporarily shut down. Those are the ones that worry me kind of most. We'll see what happens. But I want to allow for that. Just to give you the heads up, Summit County this year is going through their sexennial update. It's going to be going on this summer. In fact, I've been told they've already started that. So they're going to be going around property to property. In talking to the county, because of the economic outlook, hopefully it's not going to be going up immensely at all, everyone's property values. 3 years ago, we had the triennial update, and I believe it was like 5.5% average across the district. So we're not sure how that's going to affect, but it is coming up. Just as a reminder, this year right now, we have a 2.03 operating levy that is expiring. It's the board's intention to put that on in November. During the forecast also, the issue we passed in 18 that took effect for 2019, that will be expiring at the end of this forecast, so that is built in there. And this last one is not built in there, but I always remind everybody, we just had the 2 mil bond levy expire. So some constituents are realizing that in the taxes they're paying, some don't realize it yet because it's all going through their escrow. But that did drop down about $80 per $100,000 home, which is roughly the same amount as the renewal levy we're putting on. It's a very small levy that we have on there. But the biggest thing is we're allowing for additional delinquencies. We hope everyone's able to make that, but we just have to allow for it.
Wait a minute.
Yes,
But they're already paying,
second half is what I'm looking at.
okay.
They paid the first half, so come July, when the property taxes are due, we'll start to collect money. Now, the Summit County has what they call their TIP program, that if you're a homeowner, you can contact them and make incremental payments. Apparently, they've opened that up to businesses as well as landlord properties. They've advertised it. We'll have to see if people take advantage of that, so that may delay some of the tax money we get in. So that's all for, the biggest thing is for this fall, but I've, included it for the whole fiscal year.
Okay.
Okay, so what's called unrestricted grants and aid, that's basically our foundation, okay? If you recall, the governor this year, when it was finally passed in July, they froze what we were receiving in fiscal year 19. They froze it for 20 and 21. So we were supposed to receive the same amount we did the previous year, regardless of whether our ADM went up or down. We were getting the same flat dollar, total dollar amount. Not per child, but total dollar amount. And as we just talked about, what governor did in the middle of this, or beginning of this month, we got cut 442,000, which represents 26.25% of our per pupil funding. Now, there's some other money we get from the state, but this is our biggest one. It's our per pupil funding. So that drops us down to $688 is what we're getting per child. Okay, so again, assumptions going on to next year. Right now, I'm worst case scenario. I'm hoping it's not this bad. I'm assuming we're still going to receive that 26.25% reduction, plus I'm assuming an additional 10%. We just don't know what the governor's going to do. So that's why I'm adding that into there. Then for fiscal year 22, when all the consultants you different the different ones you talk to, they're saying that in fiscal year 22, we can maybe start recovering some of those reductions back. So I've got, of the money we're losing in fiscal year 21, which is roughly, when you add these two together, it's about $600,000, I'd put 50% of that back in fiscal year 22. And then in fiscal year 23, I'm hoping to be restored back to our pre-cut fiscal year 20, what we were supposed to get this year. So 3 years later, that's hopefully we're going to be starting to get that back. If there's anything good in here, is what I tell people is 26% of nothing is still nothing. We just don't get that much from the state. So dollar-wise, it's not as bad, but percentage-wise, when you look at it, it hurts bad. Casino revenue is another thing. As you know, the casino is shut down. So in what we're assuming, most everyone's across the state, we're assuming a 40% reduction next year and gradually build it back in. So I'm assuming right now a 40% reduction next year, and then 25% the year after that, a 10% reduction based on, we usually get about $100,000. So based on this, I'm assuming 60,000 for next year, 75, 90, until fiscal year 24, restored back to $100,000 what we're getting this year. Okay. Property tax allocation, this is our homestead and rollback that we get from the state. And it's just as a reminder, I just always keep throwing it up there, this is where TPP came in. This year we're supposed to receive the full 254,000. Next year it drops to 152. Fiscal year 22, it will be totally phased out. As you recall, the money was supposed to they were supposed to replace that with dollars from the state, and we're still waiting on that replacement. It's never going to come. 10 years or so ago, whenever they put this in, they said, the state said, we'll find a way to get you the money.
So we don't get any cat tax, anything out of the cat, that goes into the general fund?
Correct. All right, all other revenue, this is just everything else we have. One key thing is our open enrollment, all right? We're receiving $1.3 million in open enrollment. Now, we get $700,000 deducted for kids that open enroll out to other districts. So you can say, the good thing is we net $600,000 out of that. I still say we're netting $1.3 million. And here's the reason why. Because the board chooses to accept open enrollment kids in, okay? If we chose not to, that's fine, okay? We'd still lose that $700,000 because we have no choice over that. So I say by accepting the enrollment, we're still allowing 1.3. It's not to me, it's not the $700,000 decision. It's a $1.3 million decision. And as long as we bring that money in and don't have to hire extra staff, it's truly a good thing for the district. Total revenue. Revenue is increased over the past year and a half now because of the levy that was passed in 2018. However, revenue projections are projected to decline. Biggest reason is potential in delinquent taxes, potential decrease in state funding, and the expiring levies that we have. I can never assume that those are going to pass, I hope. This district has always been very good about the community about passing on our renewal levies. Obviously, there's different times right now. But again, I'm hoping because our one right now is so small, hopefully the economy will start to come back a little bit in the fall, that we're going to be able to get that through. And you can see again, I always put up here the different percentages. The really kind of one that hits you in the face though is this one. Our local funding between not only taxes, but everything else that we get, community school funding, different things like, or open enrollment funding, everything, is really 85% of our funding. We only are funded 14% by the state. Less than 1% by federal, and the other 1% is just advance and transfers between fund to fund. It just shows how reliant we are not on the state. That's why, again, yes, 440,000 is nothing to sneeze at, but when you're not getting hardly anything to begin with.
I have a question.
Yes.
I don't know if that's for you or Mr. Davis. Do you think the open enrollment will change one way or another depending on how we go back to school?
Our
Could.
dead-
You could.
Our deadline for open enrollment is June, first Monday in June, whatever it is, first, I think. We're still getting calls, people wanting to come in. So even during this period of school closure,
Mm-hmm.
the applications have still been coming in. I don't anticipate it going down. If anything, I think there are people that are going to want, because they've liked how we've responded to things.
That's what I'm
So I
wondering.
was gonna say, your reputation
Okay.
follows, I think you're.
However, remember, we only accept open enrollees for the space we have for them, unlike some districts that take everybody that applies and hires new staff. We don't do that.
No.
That's
But if you-
absolutely the wrong way to do
If we would go totally online, we could,
it. Right. Plus, in a few weeks, I'm going to be sharing with you an online option that I can tell you
But you
now.
still have to have a teacher preparation and testing and all that kind of stuff, Tammy. This way you couldn't have more for teacher.
I'm sorry, what was?
Finishing my sentence.
I'm sorry.
The Woodridge Virtual Academy that we're
Uh-huh.
starting to launch.
If you have a mic, they can't hear you on the side, I'm sorry.
Well, then I'll just be quiet.
Well, I want to hear you.
We're going to be announcing the Woodridge Virtual Academy information soon, which I
Okay.
think will be an added draw
Okay.
for additional kids.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, on to expenditures. All right, so line 3.01, your personnel services, that's basically salaries of employees. Okay, now at the beginning of the year, we had to make some adjustments that normally we don't make for our salaries. The first is we reduced our full-time EMIS coordinator. It's now a part-time position, and we can track through NeoNet. So not only are we saving money, but then that reduces our cost of salaries. Okay, we also switched our substitutes. Instead of filling in them ourselves, we utilize an agency that has a much better rate of filling substitutes, is why we went with them. And then as you recall, at the last minute, right before school started, we lost a guidance counselor. And it was tough filling a position. We're contracting through the ESC for that. So these things reduced our normal salary costs, mostly pushed it to purchase services, but not all. I'll get to that in a second. Okay?
But-
Yes.
Wait a minute, the last counselor, didn't we bring a new one on in the fall? Or did you
Yes, but
bring
that's what
one
I'm saying.
through
It's
the
now
ESC?
contracted through the ESC, so it's not an actual salary expenditure
Okay,
anymore.
got it. So that's where I was going with that.
Yes. Now, since November, okay, with the virtual learning, some other things have happened. Bus drivers, okay, salaries from field trips and athletic events, we didn't have them this spring. So we saved quite a bit of money just from having to pay that out, okay? The Student Success and Wellness Funds, this is the governor's big initiative. We got $290,000 in that this year. When we did the November forecast, we hadn't decided how we were going to spend that yet, okay? We've added the wraparound service, we've added some other contractual service, and some of it is supplanting our general fund now. We're able to do that with some of our guidance counselor expenditures. That is now built in here, okay? The CARES Act funding, while yes, we lost $400 and some thousand to the state, we're getting an additional $300,000 from the feds, okay? That's built into the forecast. We're probably not using that. I still could, but I don't think we're gonna be using that this year. We're all gonna be using that next year towards some things, salaries, possibly technology, different things like this. The other thing built in now is, we're adding the entrepreneur program here at the high school. Emily Knight's program, she came and did the presentation. That is built in here as well now. All right, benefits. This is all your insurance, your retirement, Medicare, and so forth, okay? As you recall, coming into this year, we made the big switch to the new insurance consortium. our rates dropped 12% just by doing that alone. Okay, so we saved 12%. We actually saved more than that because we didn't receive an increase, we received an actual decrease. How much would have gone up? I don't know. Minimum, I'm sure, would have been 3%. But we've seen as high as 14% with that consortium, okay? So, now, then with our recent negotiated agreements with WEA and OPSI, because of the concessions they did with the insurance program, their rates dropped an additional 1 and 1.5% in January. Again, saving us all money there. All right, as I mentioned earlier, I projected originally 10% increase. We received a 4.6% increase. The nice thing about this is every increase year is built on the previous year. So by saving this 5.4%, that just filters out throughout the rest of the years as well. Okay, I've got 8% projected in the future years after next year. As I mentioned also, reserves from our previous consortium. That's going to allow us to take a couple of premium holidays in the next few years. Okay, at least 2 years. Third year, we can either potentially take another premium holiday or use it to offset costs that maybe we might owe the consortium if we have a bad year. Okay, so our rates don't go up quite as much. Then, as I also mentioned, due to the economics of COVID-19, Delta Dental is providing a premium holiday for us for June. Again, that savings is about $17,000. And as we talked about also, unemployment rates are climbing, they're rising, but again, some of those are going to be offset by the federal government. Only those employees that they're filing unemployment because of the COVID virus. If they're filing unemployment for any other reason, those costs aren't offset. It's only those employees that are affected by the COVID-19. Okay, purchase services. This is anything we're paying a contracted service for, okay? As I mentioned, increase due EMIS going through NeoNet, the substitute through the third-party organization Wren Hill, and the guidance council that was contracted out, okay? Overall, we have a 5% increase just due to rising costs throughout. Now again, we did see some savings because of the virtual learning this year. Substitutes in our daily security, our daily police officers that are here on a daily basis, between those two, I figure we're saving about $80,000 just from this couple months here. Student success and wellness funds. As we talked about, the guidance counselor going through there, some of their funds to pay for the guidance counselor, the new one through Somebody SC, will be going through this. So again, that's saving the general fund another $27,000. On our supplies, we saved some money in supplies, but at the end of the year, it's nothing that big. The biggest thing we saved in supplies was $30,000 I'm figuring for fuel. We just didn't have to purchase anything. And again, then beyond that, I'm assuming a 2% growth for supplies from here on out. Total expenditures, you can see, is on average 5% growth pattern. And I put that this year at the end as is. That's as is right now, because we truly just don't know how school's going to be taught next year. The biggest issue, like I said, how school's going to be opened up. Whether we're going to be all in-house, all virtual, combination, it's still it's too much up in the air because the governor, the Summit County Board of Health, the State Health Department hasn't really told us what we're going to be mandated to do. Again, I always show the pie of expenditures, where we're at, and this hasn't really changed much since November, but our cost of personnel between salaries and benefits is 76%, which is about average across. As long as we're below 80%, I'm happy. Once you start getting above 80%, you get a little top heavy, and we've been well below that. Cash balances, all right, here gets the ugly part. We're projected right now to be at 6.9 million, but as you can see going forward, 24, we're at a minus 5 million. However, should our renewals levies pass, both of them within this forecast period, again, we're at 6.9, but it'll straggle on down 317, back in the positive. That's still nothing to sneeze about. We've still got some work to do to try and cut costs, see what we can do to get that up there, okay? There we go. You can see just by the chart, where we'd be. The blue is without the expiring levies passing, the renewals. The orange is with. Obviously, I like the orange much better. When you get down to here, you can see the big differences right there. Just to keep in mind the unknown. It's truly an unknown still, okay? what will schools look like in August, what's gonna happen with state funding, and the outcome of our expiring levies. I know I rambled through these, I know we've had a couple questions during that, but what questions does the board have? This is your
What
forecast.
does virtual learning cost us in addition to what it would have, other than?
I don't have an amount on that, not a ton. You know, we've had,
More money here and that kind of stuff? That's great.
no, I mean, we've had a few extra things we've had to pay. We've been doing some stuff with PPE we've had to buy, but I was gonna wait till next month, but there is a possibility some of the PPE we're buying, we may get reimbursed from our insurance consortium for our wellness funds. We planned on doing a wellness fair for the staff this spring. That got canceled. So we're gonna utilize that to buy some PPE for the staff. We can't get reimbursed for what, if we have to buy anything for children, but what we can buy for the staff, I'm told we're gonna be able to get reimbursed, so I'm working on that. So.
When are we gonna start working on renewing this levy with the public?
It has to be to, I think August 5th is the deadline to have things to the county. So usually in June or so, we'll start, there's the 2 resolutions you have to pass. So
Yeah.
June and July.
Are we gonna have a committee working on this, or are they already, or?
It's a little too soon to say, but as I
Sure.
mentioned, at some point, Scott Carlo has already indicated an interest in.
Oh, good. Good. I just think we have to start letting people know the benefits of renewing this thing.
I'd like to finish the school year first.
Well, I agree, I kind
Yeah,
of agree with that.
it's been kind of busy lately.
I'm sitting there, you know.
Things have never been busier in the past couple months.
Yeah, I'm
Any
sure they
department,
are.
I can tell you that.
Right.
More so
Never.
than I
You
do.
guys have done an outstanding job keeping up with all this too.
Mhm.
I mean, the whole staff, administration, all you guys have just done over and above
Thank you.
what we've needed.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It doesn't go unnoticed.
Right,
The trouble
definitely.
is, everything changes every day. I get 3 different blurbs from 3 different groups. The governor puts out a blurb through the workers' comp every day. Do you guys get that too?
Yep.
Sometimes multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Any other questions about the forecast?
Thank you.
No, I think having it
You know,
a
that
little bit
was
ahead of time helps. too.
Well
We'll get
explained,
through.
Mr. Morehouse.
Oh,
Well
thank you.
Nice job, Tom, thank you.
I moved, we already moved, sir.
Yep, unless anybody has any questions, we'll go to roll call.
Mr. McHugh.
Aye.
Mrs. Heffernan.
Aye.
Mrs. Flasco.
Aye.
Mrs. Hanson.
Aye.
Mr. Leidig.
Okay, that takes us to item 11, adjournment.
I moved.
I second.
All right, questions? Roll call.
Did you say questions or objections?
Somebody said question.
Mrs. Hanson. Mrs. Hanson.
Say aye.
Mrs. Heffernan.
Aye.
Mrs. Flasco.
Aye.
Mr. Leidig. Mr. McHugh.
Aye. We are adjourned.
Please God.